Is Combined Firepower too good? This one difficulty action flew under the radar during preview season, receiving only a moderate amount of hype. It helps fill up the discard pile, has an okayish damage pump, and most importantly, can be played from the discard pile if you remove a card from the game for a cost. That makes it kind of a no-brainer for decks that need to remove specific things from the discard pile, and incredibly reliable when it's your character paying that cost. It really shines in characters that remove for cost and play an unusually low amount of foundations, giving quality damage pumps for barely any cost at all. But where is this card really ruffling feathers? As a block. That's right, the responsibility to play this card from your discard pile during this attack allows you to play it during the block step, giving you up to 4 mid-blocks that do not count towards progressive difficulty and do not cost a card from your hand. Conceptually, it seemed very okay to me. Blocking with +3 mids has only recently become a little more viable. The arms race between Speed Pump and Speed Hate is in a pretty good spot right now, and the lack of progressive difficulty really pays dividends if you manage to block 2 or 3 times in a turn. Compare it to Eraserhead 1, one of the most successful defensive decks since the reboot of UVS had to trade a card from hand to get a +1 mid block with Breaker 1. Combined with his own speed reduction, you could block a 5 speed attack on a 4, the next 5 speed attack on a 5, and a third 5 speed attack on a 6, all with Breaker 1, and it costs you 3 cards in hand. Rodan is the most commonly compared character since Godzilla cards have been previewed, and assuming an average block modifier of +2 to allow him to give -2 speed as well, he can block 5 speed attacks on a 6, on a 6, and a 6. This doesn't seem anywhere near as good until you remember that this costs Rodan 0 cards from hand. In this specific instance, Rodan can also peek at the top cards of his deck and use the enhance to avoid a string of bad checks, closing the gap in potentially committed cards between these two decks even further. Most importantly, because these aren't cards coming from your hand, your ability to sculpt a kill turn greatly surpasses that of Eraserheads. One of the common strategies against Erasers were to full attack into them, knowing that victory was unachievable, but forcing them to utilize every card in their hand to block your attacks, forcing them to draw a potent enough hand with 7 random cards, not to mention forcing them to attack you if they want to start the next turn with an erase in hand. And again, this comparison is just to one of the best chain blockers from previous metas. Utilizing this in characters with lots of hit points, who benefit even more from clutching their best attacks, and can afford to partially block more often, and this card might cause some real problems. If you truly think this card is too powerful, there's certainly lots of ways they could errata it to still be powerful but not overwhelming. It could remove from the game when it leaves the card pool. It could also be usable for the enhance only and not during the block step. I personally wouldn't be surprised to see new cards that are inspired by some old cards that prevent discard pile shenanigans, but for right now, it might be time to sleeve up these bad boys if you're worried about Combined Firepower.